Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Fight fans worldwide, you've tuned into the #1 undisputed boxing podcast today. This is the Boxing Breakdown. Now, your heavy-handed, hard-hitting host, Mark Roxy.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of the Boxing Breakdown. I am your host, Mark Roxy, and I am delighted to be with you. I hope you guys are having a great Sunday night. I am and did have an amazing time watching the Oleksandr Usyk versus Anthony Joshua fight. It was incredible. There were a lot of things to break down tonight. There are a lot of things to talk about. So without further ado, I would like to welcome into the studio my partner in crime, Mr. Harold Hunt. Harold, what's up? What's going on, man? It's good to see you.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. What's up?
Oh, man. Hey, we got a lot to talk about, man. Each round was a whole other world. So I'm ready to talk about that.
Yes. And before we get started, Harold, let's take a moment to just again thank our friends that are tuning in on YouTube. Thank you for being with us. Don't forget to take a moment and smash the like button right down there. Hit it. Select the notifications, and please leave your comments. If you're watching now and you want to participate, jump right on in. If you are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts, thank you for being with us, and make sure you can take a moment and share that podcast with your friends. If they're interested in boxing, I know they're going to love being with Harold and I. We are delighted to come each week and share our knowledge and share our insights into the sport. And once again, here we go. So Harold, man, the fight was incredible. I mean, it really was a study in the art of boxing, what to do, and also, Harold, what not to do. So, what were your let's just talk about initial impressions. What was your initial impression of the fight?
Initially, I thought Usyk knew what he was going to do, how he was going to do it. He just needed to see what his dance partner was going to bring to the table. He was prepared to counterpunch. He was prepared to move. And if he could, he would try to, finish the situation, with a lot of heavy punches so the ref could step in. So he was prepared. I saw Joshua decide what kind of dance partner he was going to be. And it was just to come forward and take the punches and try to bully him in a sense. So it played out as everyone thought it would, the mindset of Joshua. We just had to see how he applied his new style to Usyk.
So what did you think of that style, Harold? I mean, obviously, there was a succinct style deployed. Were you able to discern what it was he was doing?
Well, he had two styles. The first style he used in the first fight didn't work. This second style, which was more aggressive, trying to cut off the ring, stand in the pocket to deliver your work, that didn't work either. So I didn't see a plan B. And the reason I don't see a plan B or plan C is because he's limited in what he can do in the ring as far as his skill set is concerned. He just can't do something else completely different and be successful. That's just not what his body type or his boxing acumen is at this time. So it was futile after the third round, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's interesting what you said. I think there's a couple of things I want to start the podcast off with. And the first thing is, Harold, I did notice a big adjustment in Joshua's skill sets. Okay. In the first 3 rounds, personally, I felt that Joshua, he was up on his toes. He was moving in and out. He was using the jab effectively. And the other adjustment that I thought was really good is he was bending his knees and he was using his head movement. And I thought in the beginning I was really encouraged to see that, because I thought, okay, if Joshua can hold this, if he can sustain this for 12 rounds, he's going to come out with a victory here, because he's now doing a little bit of what Oleksandr Usyk did to him in the first fight. And so as I'm watching it, I thought, okay, all right, this is good. This is good. Round 1, bing, 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 the bell rings. He goes back. He comes back in round 2, same thing. Bing, 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 the bell rings. It's still good. I thought he won the first 2 rounds solidly. And I think that there was an argument you could be made about the third round as well. After the third round is where I could see things really shift up. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the things that you saw after the third round, and then I'll share some things that I saw about what happened round 4 and on.
Okay. After the third round, what he had been working on, he used it well. His mind was on point with that. All the things that you talked about, the bending of the knees and the moving head movement and behind the jab and in and out, all those things worked pretty well. However, he went back to his old style in the 4th round. And that's just how it is.
Right.
Like I always say, if your father taught you how to fight, whenever you get into a real fight, the first thing you remember is what your father taught you or whoever taught you how to fight. All that instruction after that, you may absorb it, but you always remember your baseline, your very first understanding. And he just resorted to his very first understanding, which is sound, of a boxer or robotic type situation. And he went right back to that.
Right.
So that's what I saw.
Well, yeah, man. I thought that was interesting what you said. I thought that Usyk started to warm up after the third round. He started to use his lateral movement. He started to really be able to get, effective pot shots landing on Joshua, hitting him with the straight left hand, double jabbing, hitting him with the left hand, hooking around the corner. And those moments where Joshua came up closer to Usyk, Usyk was able to just kind of pepper him and hold him off. And I thought it was interesting because Joshua did not let his hands go when he was close. When he was close and in punch range, able to let his hands go and throw combination punching, he did not do that for the majority of the rest of the fight. There were times where he did. There were, 3 or 4 really good punch combinations, one particularly that he landed later in the fight, maybe like round 8, somewhere up in there. Don't quote me on that, but somewhere up there where he landed a multitude of body shots on Usyk and he started to break Usyk down. But those moments, for some reason, didn't occur as much as they should have happened in the fight. So, I mean, is that what you saw?
Yes, he started following him around. Once he got warmed up, as you said, and he started pot shotting him and hit him with this and hit him with that and use his movement, then no longer could the in and out be effective because he had to kind of move with Usyk to deliver his work. Yeah. And once he had to start moving and chasing him around, he went back to his style of walking you down, the typical AJ type fight. So he was
Right.
taken out of the back and forth that he learned because he had to chase Usyk around. And the only way he could do that was how he did it in the past. So he just got right back in that same boat he was in the first fight.
Right. Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think not only was he chasing Usyk around, but he also, in addition to chasing Usyk around, he wasn't able to switch when Usyk was switching. When Usyk was going right and he tried to go right, by the time he turned to go right, I'm doing this for the boxing breakdown fans so that they can hear what I'm talking about. When Joshua pivoted to his right, Usyk was already gone. So it was almost like Joshua was fighting behind the rhythm. He was behind Usyk's rhythm the entire four through. I mean, there were a couple of moments
12.
in the fight later on, but pretty much you could see systematically how he was falling behind rhythm-wise. And then Usyk and his team realized that Joshua was not going to be able to keep up with him rhythm-wise. So as the fight went on and Joshua got tired, more tired, Usyk picked up the rhythm and started to move even more, rotating him, not allowing Joshua to be able to set down on any of those punches, And so that was a really, really big adjustment that happened somewhere around 5 or 6 that Usyk started to take off. He started to create more lateral movement. Joshua was behind him in the rhythm and chasing him around. And those were the moments where Joshua was eating straight left hands. He was eating uppercuts. I mean, the left hand landed so many times on Joshua that I just started to worry a little bit about whether the smaller guy was going to be able to knock him out, And then later in the fight, I think what round was that? I think it was probably like round 8. Pretty sure it was around 8 where Joshua had an amazing round. He had an amazing round. He almost took out Usyk. Do you remember that?
Yes, it was a last gasp type of thing. He had something similar to that. Like I think it was 11.
Yeah. No, it was an
11
early.
he had 11 he had a last gasp, but the 8th was his last gasp in that he actually was able to kind of use the discipline that he had been taught. I mean, that he wanted to use, kind of rough him up a little bit.
Yeah.
And Usyk was a little tired, so he couldn't move again. And so,
Yeah.
he kind of got winded somewhat and he kind of stayed stationary. But
Yeah.
as long as he had Joshua coming behind him, stepping behind him, using the energy to chase him around the ring and move here and move there, he was content
Right.
with his style. But when he kind of stationed himself, kind of in front of Joshua got a chance to get off in that 8th round.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. When he basically Joshua started holding him behind the head and stuffing him into the corner so he could get his shots off because Usyk was moving so much he couldn't find him. So he literally had to hit him a couple of times low. To do whatever he had. He did hit him a bunch of times low, below the belt line, of course. Questionable as to where the punch landed, but allegedly the punches landing on his thighs. They were landing on his hip bones. That's an old technique, to slow the guy down. When you got a guy moving fast, you hit him on the hips and the hip bones, and that slows him down a little bit. And he was doing that. He got warned a couple of times for doing that, but basically his hope was, well, if I can get that lucky shot, it might be over. And there was a time in the fight where he had Usyk pretty hurt, and had he had the stamina, I think he punched himself out, meaning Joshua. So Joshua wasn't able to get those shots off on Usyk, but it was an interesting fight. I mean, the judges. So this fight, by the way, for those of you that are tuning in, if you didn't get a chance to see the fight, it took place in it it was in Saudi Arabia, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and the judges scored the fight unanimously for
Usyk.
Usyk. Thank you so much. You get my words. The judges scored 112, 116, 112, 117, and 113, 115, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and the fans scored that fight. The fans that scored it roughly 111, 117. So, I mean, I think there was an argument as to the effectiveness of Oleksandr Usyk's punches and whether those punches won the rounds in relationship to the punches that Joshua was landing. I think that's kind of what basically was happening later on in the fight. Let me correct those scores because those scores needed to be corrected of what I just said. Pardon me. Those scores were 113, 115 by Glenn Feldman, 116, 112 by Victor Freshko, and then 115 to 113 by Stephen Gray. Okay, so those were the actual scores. And yeah, man, I mean, it was an amazing night of boxing. It was an interesting fight because, for me, it just affirms, Harold, training fighters. For me, it affirms that you cannot approach a fighter and sit right up there in the pocket without letting your hands go and expect to win a fight. It just doesn't happen. And if your footwork is slow and behind your opponent, you're going to have a hard time winning the round,
I agree. He just wasn't used to being in the pocket with him because his past experience showed that he could get hit with some stuff inside. So he wasn't just comfortable just getting off. As you said, he got close to him several times. He could have did a little something, but he didn't. He did at times, but he had more opportunities than not, and he didn't do anything.
Yeah, I mean, he just didn't throw the punches. There were times where he had the straight right hand lined up, ready to fire, ready to go, and he didn't throw it. And I'm just thinking to myself, what are you doing? You have it. You have the shots. Throw your hands. And he didn't let his hands go. And I just, I mean, and Usyk, to Usyk's credit, he looked a little he looked a little soggy. He didn't look sharp. He did well, but he didn't look sharp, his normal sharp self. I could see a little bit of, it wasn't as good as I expected it from him. He did what he had to do to win. At the end of the day, it was a very, very close fight. Very close fight. I think it was 1 point difference, right? So, Joshua, toward the end of the fight, he tried his best to land, but 11 and 12, you had Usyk on his bicycle running. I mean, he was racing that bicycle left and right and back and, under and to the side. And, you could just see Joshua's, you could see his face that he was thinking, the window on this is closing for me. It's closing. And you could, as you're watching, you could feel the window closing on him as you get round 10, round 11. And then here we are in round 12. And, my son and I were watching. By the way, Ben Roxy, if you're listening to the Boxing Breakdown, thank you for tuning in tonight. I see you there. Gave me some fires on the comments. I appreciate that. And, but we were watching the fight, he and I, and we just looked at each other and he was like, Dad, this guy's going to need a knockout to win. I'm like, I know he's not going to win if he doesn't knock him out. And sure enough, he didn't win and he didn't knock him out. Right. So that's not the end, folks. That's not the end. Harold, let's break down what happens at the end of the fight. Let's talk about what happens once the decisions were, when the decision was given, there was a lot of pomp and circumstance at that point. Do you remember that?
Some of it, some of it. I started taking notes. What I saw that stood out to me doing before they said who won, Usyk had the flag,
Yeah.
and Joshua broke character because obviously he's quite the prima donna in private.
Yeah.
So his goodwill was broken because he knew he had lost, and he said to Usyk, "Give me the flag, give it to me." He broke character because he demanded from Usyk to give him a part of the flag so he could hold it up.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
The optics were nice, but the way he asked Usyk for to hold the flag up, that spoke volumes to me on he was frustrated situation, and kind of like, you want to say for your music people, Whitney Houston, whereas she came from the street, but they absolutely changed her persona for the public to see. And the minute she went back to who she really was, it was all shocking.
Right.
That's what I saw from Joshua. He
Yeah.
broke character and he became this bully dude even after he lost. And that stuck out. The rest of it, he reverted back to, gracious type guy. So what did you see, Mark?
No, I mean, I actually didn't pick. It's interesting. I didn't pick up on that. That's not what I picked up on. What I picked up on is that he was definitely wrestling with himself as to whether or not he won or lost the bout. He was sitting there thinking, "Oh man, did I do enough to win, or did I just lose this fight?" You could see him, and I think at that point he kind of knew. He knew that he wasn't, that he didn't win it at come round 12, which is why he really tried to track Usyk down, because he knew he was behind, and he knew he probably didn't win some of those close rounds. He gave up rounds like the last 15 seconds of the round. He gave up the round. He was winning the round. He took a couple of silly shots because he wasn't focused as to where he was in terms of, the time of the round. And he just gave up some silly shots that he didn't need to give up. But what I saw toward the end, Harold, was just I saw a defeated man, a man who didn't know how to deal with his emotions. And I understand what he was going through. I understand the magnitude of the loss. I understand that, he basically went into a full-fledged breakdown. It was a full-fledged breakdown after the judges' scores were announced. There wasn't much to say except meltdown. That's what I saw. I saw a total meltdown. Then Joshua literally had a tantrum, after Usyk was announced as the winner. As soon as that happened, he stormed out of the ring. He went all the way down, as if he was going to the locker rooms. He stopped, he turned around, and then he stormed back up into the ring. Right? And when he went into the ring, he threw out some foul words, and he just started going off on this rant. So I don't know. I just felt like it was a real. It made him appear as if he was not stable. You know what I mean? Like that to me is what I took. It's what I took from that moment.
Well, he gave in the moment before they made the decision when he snapped at Usyk to give him a part of the flag. He knew then he had lost. He knew it.
Yeah.
And he was just like, "Oh man, I lost this.
Right.
So let me keep up my optics."
Right.
So he went back to that, and then he, as you said, he went on out the ring, and he came back or whatever because
Yo, Harold.
he just could not continue to keep that attitude because he was just really frustrated by the situation.
Right.
Now, I necessarily hasn't seen anyone come back into the ring, you know, and the TV production, TV production. Once you've cleared that set, you cleared that situation,
Yep.
you go into other things. But for the truck or whoever to go back, pick him up, bring him back in the ring, fire all the mics up and get all that, that was because he is who he is,
Yep.
and they're gonna go with that. Maybe somebody may get an Emmy for letting him go back in the ring. Who knows?
No. I mean, I think he gets a timeout, to be quite honest. I mean, so he went into the ring, right? He took the stuff, he took the belts, and I think he threw the belts out of the ring, right? Yeah, he threw them out of the ring. Then Joshua went up to Usyk and he told him that, he'd not be strong, and questioned how he won the fight. That he didn't believe that that Usyk really won the fight. So belts got thrown out of the ring, signifying, oh, I deserve the win. I deserve this belt. I should have won. And how the heck did you win? That's kind of what I got. And that's what I was I was just a little dismayed by that, because I don't think it was in Joshua's, I don't think it's what he wanted to do. I think he just did it,
Well, it's reminiscent of how Broner acts at times. If he has a loss or something
Yeah.
like that, he's kind of demonstrative and delusional. A
Well,
lot of
yeah.
people feel the way he speaks, but that is a part of his stick. Whereas Joshua never had this type of attitude or propensity to be unreasonable emotionally in our face.
Well,
And he did that.
yeah.
So that's what happened. And, you can lose it. And the pundits are going to be trying to spin up what happened, why he say that, why he did this, and why he did that. I saw it. I saw the break when he grabbed the flag from Usyk. I saw the break.
Right.
When I saw that attitude and him snapping at him like that, I knew that he had lost.
Right. Well, he literally said to Usyk, as if he was bewildered by what happened. He said to Usyk, I don't understand. You're not strong. How did you beat me? He said that. So he was bewildered at the fact that, the smaller guy, Usyk, was able to beat him. And I thought the connection between Usyk and, his country and what his country's going through with, Mother Russia, fighting against Russia, the smaller country, and the odds that are against the country, and yet they continue to fight, was very similar. It was like eerily reminiscent of the war. And so when I looked at Usyk, I was like, man, this guy really had the eye of the tiger. He really had that look in his eyes, like, you will not deny me. I'm going to win this no matter what it takes. I'm going to win this. And that reverberated, right, around the world. I mean, people saw that, Harold.
Yes, you saw the bully. Wonder why the smaller or man was successful, and I guess that can be a microcosm with the war, because Usyk's situation is they're being bullied in a sense. I want to be very liberal with that because this is not a political show, but that type of attitude was taken, and as you said, that galvanized him to win the fight no matter what. So
Right.
We just have to see how the fallout goes. I mean, Joshua has said that he wants to move on and fight in December.
Right.
He wants to continue. Sometimes styles, you'll never be able to figure him out.
Right.
And that's how he's moving forward with it.
Yeah, no, I think Usyk is just I don't think what is fact is that Oleksandr Usyk is a better boxer than Anthony Joshua. It's two times. He won two times, not once. And both times he did pretty much the same thing. It was much of the same. The only thing that I thought was really, really interesting is that he started the fight a little slower. He really started out the fight slow. He got Joshua to feel a little comfortable. He got him to burn a little energy throwing punches. And then he took off, right? And he understood that if he had the legs and if he had the stamina and the lateral movement and the punch combinations later in the fight, that he's gonna walk off with a victory. And he did that. He actually did that. So
yeah, what I saw was he knew that the guys were going to try to deploy a new strategy.
right,
So he had to look at it, see what it was. I
well,
want to see what it is, what he's trying to do, where he's trying to go. And in order to see that, he had to be kind of stationary.
right,
So, excuse me. So he simply continued just to look at it, see what it was, what the tendencies was, what the movement was. He said, okay, let me go to my game plan and see if this new work that he's working is going to work with this. And it did not. He
right.
dropped it and he went back to his plodding style, chasing him around the ring.
Yeah. There were some some people on the live feed, they were talking about it and they were saying, I don't understand why why his corner was telling him that he won the fight. Why were they doing that when clearly he was losing the fight? You have any thoughts about that, Harold?
Well, they want their money. They want their pay. They don't want to get fired after the fight. They know he's losing. When he goes back and looks at everybody's performance, someone has to be the scapegoat. You know how it is with fighters. They got to find somebody to blame for their loss.
Huh.
If you're one of his handlers, anybody who works with him, if you said anything during the broadcast or at any time, even remotely siding with his loss or this or that or the other, you're going to get fired. They all knew he was losing the fight, but of course they're going to say, yeah, you win the fight because they want to be retained for his next fight going forward.
Right.
They don't want to be the scapegoat. So they're going to say what they have to say to get that paper, to get their pay.
Right.
And that's what that was. That's simple.
There were a couple of other people there was one guy that on the feed that was saying, he was like, well, I have not looked at the official scorecards. He says, but I think that Joshua was up on the cards after the 8th round. I mean, was he? Do you think he was up in the 8th round?
I had the whole fight. I had the fight 7-5.
Okay. So you scored it then? Wow.
Inadvertently, yes.
Good. Okay. So was it unofficial score? Like, you mean like a loose score, or did you actually score it?
It was a loose score, but because of what I do,
Yeah.
I can easily just look at something and say 10-9. I can add it up in my mind. I don't have to write it down. But yeah, it wasn't a loose score, but I knew who won each round.
Right. Well, supposedly after the 9th round, two of the judges had AJ winning, and the other judge had him losing by 1 round. So that's kind of odd to me.
I'm going to side with my colleagues. So
Yeah.
whatever, they saw what they saw. Everyone has a different discipline.
Right.
But they got it. You're not saying they got it right, but they came up. They finished how they thought it was. So I cannot dispute that because I myself have been in situations.
Right.
And I've worked with Glenn Feldman before as a judge with him on a fight. So I know I don't know how he thinks, but I've talked with him a lot of times about this or that or whatever. So I understand where he was going with this. But the
Right.
main thing is they were able to finish the fight and it was an acceptable decision.
Right.
However, they said it was their who was up or whatever. That's in the middle of the fight. Each round is separate. Each
Right.
each each situation where you're sitting, there's 3 spots around the ring. You see different things. So
Absolutely.
I can't even speak to that, Mark. Those guys are professionals far above my level. So I
Yo,
know that they know what they're doing, and it came out correct. I
I
just
have,
had it at my meager understanding, 7-5.
yeah, I think that let's talk about Garcia, okay? Because I think that um, there was a disservice done in the corner. And again, I respect and hats off to everybody working at the highest level, doing their best that they can. But I think if you go back and you look at it and you think about it tactically, what could have been done differently, certainly telling your fighter that he's ahead as you're going into the championship rounds is not a good idea, right? Even if he is ahead, right? You just leave it alone. But if that's just me. I mean, maybe that's
Well,
just me,
yes,
right?
but you're a trainer. That discipline is yours and yours to speak on. I can't get it, and that's why you have the show because you need people to understand your side of the fence.
Right.
So I can't even understand that or why that would be, other than he's going to keep his fighter going. But you can break it down differently. So, in
Right.
if your mind it was inappropriate or
Huh.
uh, something that should have not been said, or
Yeah.
hey, I have to agree with that and try to understand why that would be so.
Well, I mean,
For
come on
me, it's
now.
strictly financial. I
I
mean,
think that
not as basic as I am, strictly financial. He wanted to help his charge do better if he
right.
could.
Right. I think when the scorecards are released, meaning like they're actually released, and you get a chance to see. I mean, I can see them, but that's not public. Not everybody has access to that. But round one, right? Um, I mean, basically round one. I think it was. Well, I gotta break this down. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna post it up on our Instagram. I'm gonna throw this scorecard up on Instagram, so people can see it up there. I really can't. I really can't. Well, maybe I think I can pull it up for the YouTube. It'll take me a second to pull it up, but I'll try to get it up on for everybody to take a look at it. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting to look at it visually and see what the judges had. Harold, you know, it's coming up in a second. So,
So,
well,
just my opinion, it looks like it was a well judged fight. The referee did a great job. Uh, it was kind of obvious what was going on. The commission, everybody looked great. I mean, I had no complaints or anything to say about the judging or the refereeing or the corner work either. You had to be online for your fighter, and that's what
right,
it was. We saw the proper strategies deployed. We saw Joshua tried to do what he had been working on to do. He did that for a period of time. He had the good round 8. He had some work done on 11th and 12th, I believe. That was, it was exciting. I mean, the whole thing was great, and it had a little drama at the end with him coming back to the ring and throwing the belts out and this, that, and the other. I
yeah,
mean, there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of good optics, to be seen. As I said when we were talking about the fight earlier, that you're going to see a little more pronounced uh, uh, what counterpunching as what we saw.
yeah, yeah, no doubt, yeah, absolutely. Well, it looks like I can't pull it up here for today, but I will pull it up, and I will put it up on our Instagram account at the Boxing Breakdown. And Harold, man, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you for this quick and prompt post-fight recap of Usyk versus Joshua that took place this last Saturday. This was the second fight. It's great, in years to come, you'll come back and listen to this and you'll get a little insight into how these fights went. It's like a little time capsule. And until then, people, peace and love. We will catch you on the next episode of the Boxing Breakdown. Peace out.
Fight fans, join host Mark Roxy and special guests as they break down all aspects of the boxing world, including news, business, management, training, promotions, fan reactions, upcoming events, matchups, future boxing stars, title fights, state of the boxing world, and all the stuff you don't see when you watch boxing. This podcast is released each week on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live streamed on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook Live. It's the Boxing Breakdown, hosted by Mark Roxy.